welcome to episode 185 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight, we are talking Halloween 2 from 1981 and Friday the 13th Part 2 from 1981. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! We are live on episode 185. 15 more to go to 200. It is Monday. Did I say the date? I can't remember now. Can't remember if I said the date. It is Monday, March the 20th, 2023, 6:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is today the first day of spring? It's either today or tomorrow. It's either today by the calendar, that is. Of course, if you live in Canada, especially where I am, or anywhere in the Midwest, Northeast of the United States, you know that just because it says spring on the calendar does not mean you cannot get a snowstorm at the end of March or even little bits of snow in April. But every year, like clockwork, we'll get snow in April or get a dusting of snow or a freak snowstorm. I don't get it. Well, listen, what do you mean you don't get it? Listen, March is a winter month. April is hit and miss. It's kind of a mixture. May, I always say, you can't, if we get some freak snowstorm in May, then you can bitch. It's May. But March and April, come on. Anyway, Tony, how you doing?
Fucking freezing down here. Our weather's drunk. They don't know what the fuck is doing. In fact, it's like cool. It's warmer up by you guys than it is down here. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but hey, whatever.
Is it really?
But no, yeah. It was like 35, 40 degrees today, and people back home telling me it was like 50 degrees and shit. I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow.
So yeah, fucking Mother Nature's drunk right now. She's fucking with all of us.
Sounds pretty pretty drunk, indeed, to say the least. Now, let's preface the show by saying that Tony is in the middle of doing some editing on some photos that he took today. So he's tackling.
Gotta meet that deadline.
It's got to meet the deadline. He's going to be multitasking. So if it looks like Tony is kind of looking over here, doing a little something.
If it looks like I don't give a fuck, well, I really don't. But
no, he really doesn't. He really doesn't. I mean, I had to actually literally pay him $45,000 today just to come on the show today. Right. 45 grand was sent into his bank account today just for him to come on the show. So, I mean, he really doesn't. No, but if it looks like that, you don't, Tony looks like he doesn't give a shit. No, he's editing. He's doing two things at once, but he is here like the champion. He is here. And that's all that matters. Yes. Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981, Halloween 2, 1981. We've been doing sort of this battle series over these last few weeks, which has been a lot of fun. We compared two fan favorites, Elm Street 3 and Friday the 13th, Part 6.
No one has caught on to this, but, that's cool. The fact that we're doing it in March and March Madness here is like, although I don't really watch college basketball like I do college football.
Right.
Like I live and breathe college football. That's my shit. But, March Madness. So that was kind of like when Dave and I were talking. Dave had come up with the idea, and then I was trying to figure out a way to do this in a tournament style bracket like March Madness, but it's almost impossible to do.
It's hard to do.
So it just works to just be able to do it as a versus during the month of March, while those who are into college basketball, and we've got a few listeners, that follow me, that are into it because I see their posts and stuff that they're hardcore. And that's cool. I don't do college basketball. I don't really, it's just not my, football is pretty much it for me.
I get you. Yeah, no.
Although I do follow a little hockey. Like I know you're into hockey too, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Canadian. I come out of the womb with a hockey stick in my hand.
If you're not a fan of hockey up there, you're a disappointment to your country.
You literally get deported. No.
You do. That's it.
Can you imagine? I'm sorry. You're what? You're not.
You're out.
Get out. Get out.
Not a fan of hockey? Get out.
Get out! No, it's true. You get deported. You lose your citizenship. It's insane. But
this has been fun doing the verses, and
it has. Well, we did
fun.
the first show. We did 2 fan favorites, Elm Street 3 and Friday 6. Then last week we did the Battle of the Fours, Halloween 4 and Friday 4, which were 2 fan favorites as well. And these, the 2 we're going to be talking about here today, are fan favorites too. Yeah, really. I mean,
the direct sequels, I should say.
Yes, Halloween 2 from 81 and Friday the 13th Part 2, both from the year 1981. And really interesting. Obviously, with Halloween 2, Halloween from 1978 is sort of looked at as sort of the film that kicked off the golden age of low budget horror slasher movies. You could go back to Black Christmas, but Black Christmas didn't penetrate the pop culture zeitgeist like Halloween did. But so that's why it's kind of looked at that is sort of the starting point. And then Sean Cunningham, the director of the original Friday the 13th, has said that I mean, we made this, we saw the success of Halloween becoming the highest grossing independent movie in motion picture history. Or was it independent horror? I think it was independent movie, period, I think. But anyway, nonetheless, huge, gigantic success, over 50, 60, 70 million, whatever the hell it was at the box office, huge. And they thought, hey, and they weren't the only ones that thought, hey,
Right.
And so Sean Cunningham made Friday the 13th, or came up with the idea for Friday the 13th. And the rest is history with that franchise. But of course, they stepped it up a notch and made it bloodier and, all that kind of stuff. They took it to the real sort of slashery type area, and that spawned a ton of low budget B-movie horror slashers in the 80s, everything from The Burning to Don't Go Into the Woods to the Friday the 13th, the Elm Streets, the Prowlers,
And I've always said what you just said, and I know people are going to disagree, and that's fine. But while I know Halloween, gave birth, really, it's built, the momentum kicked in with Friday the 13th. That's when everybody started going, and especially what you just said, because Halloween and Friday the 13th, really, they're 2 different stylized movies. Halloween, you don't really see blood. It's suspense. It's theater of the mind. Friday the 13th is, it is what it is. It's kids at a camp, and you're going to get killed.
That's right.
And Friday the 13th, to me, I've always felt was really the one film that jump started what you just said, that slasher genre that we got in the 80s. Not discrediting Halloween, and I'm not saying Halloween isn't no, but when you do watch both of these those 2, the original films, they are 2 completely different types of movies, with what Carpenter went with or was going for, and with what Cunningham was going for. Would you agree on that?
Yes, for sure. Yes. I absolutely would agree on that. I think that, look, I mean, and because of Friday the 13th, when they went to go make Halloween 2, they felt they needed to compete with Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th felt they needed to compete with Halloween, and then Halloween 2 felt like they needed to compete with Friday the 13th. Yeah. Which is why you saw more gore, more blood, and more violence in Halloween 2 from 1981. So yes, you are, and because Michael Myers dies at the end of Halloween 2, and they wanted to go off and do the anthology route, you're right. I mean, Halloween got it started. It's like that relay race that you see with, they're running with the batons, and then, they put the baton back like this, or no, ahead of them, I guess, and the guy reaches back and takes it. Halloween was running and put out their hand, with the baton, and Friday the 13th reached back, took it, and just boom, took off like a shot. And
Friday the 13th went in a different direction than what
for
Halloween.
Sure.
Friday the 13th really was beginning that, when you think about it, and the blood that's shown in Friday the 13th versus the blood that's shown even in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original film.
Right.
I mean, think about that. A movie that's titled Texas Chainsaw Massacre, almost has next to no blood in that film.
That's
literally.
True. Yeah, no, it's true.
Whereas Friday the 13th, they weren't pulling punches. They were going for 1980.
Yeah.
They were going for it. You know what I mean? And I mean, you look at the Kevin Bacon scene, fucking getting speared through the fucking throat, and shit. I mean, you weren't seeing that shit in Halloween. So while Halloween certainly kickstarted the slasher genre, Friday the 13th basically looked at Halloween and said, fuck you, we're taking it here. And either you're following us or you're not. And what did it do? Like you just said, Halloween 2 changed its format and you saw a bit more.
Yeah, because they needed to compete, right? And they beat, because that's what was hot. And it was new, it was, I mean, it was new on that. I mean, listen, those kinds of movies existed before Friday the 13th and Halloween, but they were more exploitation, underground, a little more, not quite as mainstream. And it was Halloween and Friday the 13th, certainly in those early days, that started to make this a little more mainstream, getting, big theatrical releases, wide releases, which is not something that you generally speaking, saw with that kind of a movie before that. And then, of course, so you have your theatrical releases, but then you also have all your independent B, C, and D movies that came along as well, which were trying to capitalize on those films, and that didn't get those theatrical releases, or got a limited run in like one town, or something like that, like a Don't Go Into the Woods, which is fucking god awful. Yeah. It's terrible. It's one of the worst movies I've seen. But it's interesting to look at that time and what it was like, and how both of these movies are actually very important to their franchises. Obviously, for me, when I think of Halloween 2 from 1981, still to this day, looking at the franchise as a whole now, and listen, I will be completely transparent and say that, of course, I'm nearly 44 years old. I grew up with the original movies. Obviously, there is a nostalgic connection that I do have to the early Halloween films, for sure. And so that definitely plays a part. You have to absolutely include that. But I still believe to this day, for me, Halloween 2 from 1981 is still my favorite Halloween sequel. I think it is still the best Halloween sequel. And the reason I say that is because, for me, because it was a movie that was, well, there's a couple of reasons. The first is, I think it was a really good idea, even though it wasn't always the idea. I think it was a good idea to create a story that picked up immediately where the first one left off, because then it feels like you're watching one movie with two separate parts. And it's like back in the day when you'd rent like a 3-hour movie back in the VHS days from, Blockbuster or something, and they would hand you 2 VHS tapes because, and that's what you had to do. I mean, I remember doing that with like, Dances with Wolves or something like that. You would rent that from the video store. Titanic, right. Well, and if you bought Titanic on VHS, it came with 2 tapes, the Green Mile as well. And that's sort of what Halloween 1 and 2 is like. You know what I mean? It's like it's like one movie with 2 separate, tapes, right? And it's like a 3-hour film. And so I think it works really well because of that. I think because it was made only 3 years later after the 1978 original, there is a production value. So the quality of the image, the quality of the film stock, the production value still looks like it's from that era. So I have no trouble believing that it is the same night, because the production value looks, I mean, yes, some things are a bit different, sure. Jamie Lee Curtis obviously has a wig on that's not too good because she'd cut off her hair. But in terms of the quality of the image, the film stock, the production value, it's only 3 years from 1978.
Even then, Jamie Lee Curtis couldn't stick to continuity.
Well, she didn't think that they were ever going to make another one. So that I find that helps for me to believe. I buy into that this really is the same night because it looks like it's the same night. Obviously, I prefer Nick Castle's performance over Dick Warlock's, but I like Dick Warlock's performance. I still think he's my second favorite. And there's a lot to like. I do understand that there's a little bit in the middle of the film that is, some fans have considered maybe a little boring, especially that long drawn out scene with, the security guard who's walking around and doing that. I think maybe some music might have helped with that. There's some moments in there that I understand that are a bit drawn out, but overall, as far as sequels go, as far as Halloween sequels go, you got a terrific soundtrack. The mask still looks great. Of course, as a Halloween purist, you introduce, the brother-sister arc, which I don't think was necessary, but I understand why they did it, of course. So you do introduce motive into that film, and that's where that begins. But overall, as far as Halloween sequels go, as far as being a direct sequel to the original, I still think it's the best sequel in the franchise. There isn't another sequel that I can watch that makes me feel like the original. It still feels like the original film in a lot of ways. And that's primarily because it's 1981. By the time you get to 1988, production value is changing. You watch a movie from 1978 and 1988, and there's a difference, right? That's a whole decade there. So although I do really like Halloween 4 for different reasons. So that for me is why, I really like Halloween 2, and I really like Friday the 13th Part 2 as well. This, of course, is where you introduce Jason Voorhees into the mix, and in
my opinion, his best look, but that's just my opinion.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's underutilized too, because because it hasn't been overexposed, right? We haven't been saturated with the sackhead that it's nice to see. It's nice to go back to and see it. And he's just sort of a regular kind of guy,
living in the woods, right?
Yeah, he's not, he doesn't have Goldberg traps. Right. But it's a great look. As far as sequels go, Friday the 13th Part 2 is a great sequel. It's got great kills. It's got a great final girl. It's got a great jump scare at the end.
Like, you can't undermine that. You're talking probably one of the best final girls in all of horror.
For sure.
With Amy Steele. Yeah.
For sure. So before we talk about Friday, tell me your thoughts on Halloween 2. How do you feel about it? You've said, I think you've said recently that you're starting to come around to it a bit more.
Halloween 2 for me is more nostalgia than anything, because, I've shared the story many times, for years when I was introduced to the franchise and started watching Halloween movies. I didn't have access to Halloween until about 1993 when Blockbuster came around, just because our VHS stores, rental places didn't carry it. Copyright, right. Whatever. I don't know, whatever the reason is, but they just didn't have it. So my only peek into the original Halloween was Halloween 2. And like I said, when we were kids, man, we watched that shit a lot. Now, I wasn't like as much of a fan of it like I am Halloween 4. Halloween 4 is my favorite sequel in the franchise, and that will always be my favorite sequel in the franchise. But as I've gotten older, yes, I've said this many times, I find myself watching Halloween. Like, I just watched it like a few weeks ago in February. I seem to watch Halloween 2 at least a couple times a year, once during the winter months, and then for sure it's definitely in rotation come October when we're in trick-or-treat season and watching scary movies and whatnot. And I think you pretty much said, I'm trying not to repeat what you said, but the thing about Halloween 2 is it feels like it's the same night. Aesthetically, nothing really feels like it's changed too much. I can tease about Jamie Lee Curtis, not sticking with continuity and putting a wig on, but I'm just joking around. I'm not being serious. But I don't know. There's just something very nostalgic. It just takes me back. It takes me back to my childhood, watching Halloween 2, and even watching Halloween 2 on Halloween night, just it feels like a movie that was made in the middle of the night. Like, I do feel like this is a continuation, although I've always been confused on the Halloween 1 and 2, like time of day, like how much time, like how late was it in the, when Michael was doing his thing and attacking everyone in the first film, because it seems like we're supposed to believe that a significant amount of time has surpassed by the time we get to the end of that film. And then you go to the hospital. Does this take place in the middle of the night? I mean, it's nitpicking, but regardless, it feels like it. Whatever time of day, like if it's supposed to meant to be in the middle of the night, I feel like when Halloween 2 rolls around that I'm watching a movie that this is in the middle of the night. And, this is what a small town, that's the other thing. People like, hospitals are not like that. You ever go to a fucking small town hospital? I can tell you it is a lot like that. It is very, on certain floors, it's very quiet. There's hardly any people. There's hardly even any nurse staffing. Especially if you go out to like rural places that are country towns and have these like little, hospitals, that county hospitals or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
They're not big. They're not big. They're not meant for that. Yes, they are, but they're not. I don't know. It's Halloween 2 just has really good vibes. I just enjoy watching it. I have fun putting it on. It's a great sequel to the original. All the things that you pointed to and said without trying to repeat. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's it's funny because when I look at in context, when you think about Halloween 2 and Halloween 1 in terms of how Halloween 2 stepped up the quote unquote violence and blood,
Sure.
it did in comparison. But nowadays, I think watching Halloween 1 and 2, it still works. Like it's not. It might have seemed overkill, no pun intended, at that time, perhaps, but it doesn't feel overkill now because I think we've been so inundated with so much violence and so much gore and so much gratuitous imagery in terms of that gore and violence that looking at Halloween 2 from 1981 is so tame. It's so tame in comparison to what we're used to now. So even though it might be gratuitous in compared to the original, it still feels tame. So it's a nice 1-2
and
punch.
there's very little about, obviously as we move along in the franchise, with the exception of 1, 2, and 4, 2, there's very little I would change about 2. You know what I mean? I mean, there's certain, like you said, maybe I would have pulled back on the guard scene a little bit, just so that you're not losing the pace of the film. Right, Mr. Garrett, I get where people it doesn't bother me that much, you know what I mean? Like but I understand, but yeah, maybe I would have cut back a little bit on that just so that it picks the beats up a little bit in the film.
Yeah. Or added some music just would have helped.
Whatever. Yeah. I get you're going for the ambient sound, you know what I mean? You're trying to, you're playing with the soundscape of the room. So I get it. I get what they were doing. For
sure.
But yeah, there really isn't much that again, like, what was it? Tommy Lee Wallace. He said, what did he say about the original Halloween? It cut like butter. There was hardly any fat on it. You know what I mean? Like it just, they really didn't take much out of the editing process. I'd say the same thing with Halloween 2. There's not a lot of fat on that movie that you would need to cut out. Again, maybe just the Mr. Garrett scene, dial that back a little bit. Great suspense too when Michael's stalking Laurie. That's one of my favorite. Look, I'll take nothing away from the original, when he's walking down the stairs and walking across the street and the keys, like take nothing away from that. That's it's a great moment. The music and everything gives me goosebumps, iconic scene, but you cannot minimize when Michael's stalking her downstairs in the basement and she climbs over that thing to get to the elevator and she's pushing the elevator button and he's getting closer to her. That's a fucking great great suspenseful scene that they created.
It is. And Halloween 2
stalking scene is what I meant to say.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. And Halloween 2 actually has one of my favorite kills in the franchise. And that is it's really the kill in and of itself might make you, squirm a little bit if you don't like needles, but it really is.
It's my favorite kill in the whole franchise.
But it's the setup. And I think it's because it's the most Halloween 1 in Halloween 2 in terms of revealing Michael Myers in a lot of respects, right? Because, Janet walks in, Dr. Mixter, Laurie's had a reaction to the medication. Dr. Mixter, turns the chair around. He's just like, oh, like this, the needle in his eye. And she's like, oh my God. And she's backing up. And then, his fucking mask literally, like I say this on my channel all the time, but his mask literally emerges from the darkness, behind her. And the mask looks so good. And she just kind of
it's the closest to the original.
That's what you just said.
Of the mask, right?
Yeah. And it's the execution, the reveal of Myers is very Halloween 1, right? Emerging from the darkness, coming out of the shadows and things like that. And so I love it. I think it's just because you don't see it. And if you're watching on a big screen, whenever I watch Halloween 2 with somebody I've never watched it with before, and it gets to that moment, that's one of those moments where I'm watching them watch the the moment because I want to see their reaction. Because you're watching on a big screen, she's backing up, and all of a sudden you just kind of see his face. It's like, very good. That was good, guys. Clap, clap, clap. So it's one of my favorite moments in the entire franchise.
It's same. It's my favorite kill. Janet's kill's the one that I have a hard. Anything towards the temple, even Friday. It's funny because Friday 2 has a very similar kill with Alice.
It does.
You wonder who did it first because both movies. Friday technically came out before Halloween 2, but did they know? You know what I mean? Like, were they sharing notes in production? Like, hey, we did this kill. Hey, we did this kill. Who knows? Who knows who did it first?
Who knows?
They both came out the same year. Friday came out before. But
it's true.
But Janet's kill is by far, it's my favorite kill in the entire franchise. It's one that still, it squirms me a little bit because I don't like anything near the temple. Well done, like you said, with the lighting and revealing Michael behind her.
Yeah.
It's like we said, it's the closest we get to what Michael originally looked like in the first film. It takes nothing away from Nick Castle. Dick Warlock and his performance.
It was great.
I put him up there. He's probably third. Him and Wilbur are close. You know what I mean? Obviously, I give it to Nick, James Jude, and then it's between Dick Warlock and George P. Wilbur. I kind of flip between the two in the third spot. For me, in all intents and purposes, the two of them can share the third spot. But that scene it's a great scene.
It's great.
It's a fucking great scene.
It's great.
Yeah.
And I've often said that again, I understand why Carpenter wrote it in there, of course, the motive. But I've often said that you could remove that. You could remove the reveal that.
Oh, you mean the sister motive?
Yeah. You could actually remove that from the film altogether and only have to adjust two things. So you would have to change the dream that Laurie has while she's sleeping in the hospital. So she can't have...
just flashback to Michael chasing her to the house.
Exactly. I've said that many times on the channel. That's what I would do. She's having a dream of the events that have just happened, right? So you would just have like a flashback to her in the closet,
which
the
would
coat hanger
actually
and all
make
that kind
more
of stuff.
sense, right?
Well, it would make less sense if you are trying to have but yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm saying I'm saying what I mean by it would make more sense is that like to have a dream of, you just went through this traumatic event.
Right.
Would you not, you would think that that's what she would be dreaming about and that's what would be bothering her.
For sure. And so that's what you do with that. And that way you remove the whole, I'm not your mother, and then she's standing there looking at Michael at the window and all that. It's great stuff. If you want the brother sister shit there, it's very important. It's really eerie. And it's like, oh my God, she met him one time. And that's really cool. And she always had kind of this feeling and that's great. But you can remove that and replace the dream and nothing else changes. And then, of course, at the end of the movie, when Marion and Loomis are in the back of the marshal's car, you would have to rewrite the dialogue there. Now, Loomis can still go into his dialogue about paganism and witches and ghosts and all that kind of stuff. He can still talk about that, elements of the future. Oh, wait, is that in the back of the car or is that earlier? That might have been earlier when he's talking to Hunt. I can't remember now.
No, you're right.
It's in the back of the car, right? Yeah, that's right.
Because the cop keeps looking back every time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So you keep that because that's talking about Halloween, evil, and all that kind of stuff. But then you just rewrite Marion's dialogue as something else, and that's very easy to do. She's talking about something else. She can be talking about Myers. She can be talking about, Dr. Loomis, I found these really weird files. I can't quite understand, but, and she's just talking about, I don't know, files relating to Myers or something, who knows? And that's it. And the rest of the movie can stay literally the same. And the reason it's so easy to do that is because yeah, but do I have that somewhere? It's somewhere.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
But here's the thing.
We want the brother-sister connection.
People love it. But here's the thing. And don't get me wrong. I understand, and from a certain perspective, it absolutely works. But the large reason why you can remove it and just make those small adjustments is because we never actually get to see Laurie Strode realize that she is Michael's sister. We don't get to see Dr. Loomis tell her that. We don't actually see her realize it. So we as an audience don't get that payoff. Now, some people have tried
She still thinks this guy is just after her and she doesn't understand why.
Right. Now, we can assume that when she gets to the next town, to the next hospital, at some point she's told this.
Right. But in the movie, we
don't. Loomis never tells her. Nobody does. Now, people have tried to argue with me, well, how did she know his name? Well, she knew his name because Jimmy said that Michael Myers is the one that's running around. He's the one that was after you. So that's
the little boy?
Right.
The little boy who killed his sister?
Exactly. So that's how she's able to say, when she's got the gun and she's sitting on the floor and before she shoots him in the eyes, Michael, it's not because she's like, oh my God, you're my brother. No, it's because,
luckiest fucking shots in cinema history.
It's fucking amazing. But so because we as an audience don't get that payoff, you can remove it, make some small adjustments, and you could just let the audience fill in the blanks. Well, why was he after her? Well, I don't know, because she's the one that got away, right? I mean, he's a predator, right? He's a cat. She's the gazelle. I mean, she gets away.
He's fixated on her.
He's hunting.
He wants her. He's
a predator.
It's becoming what is it? Is it sociopath people that become obsessive? Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, psychopath, sociopath,
which would fit all of Michael's personality traits as to why he would be doing that.
And again, when I always say that there's no motive, I'm talking about, something that's premeditated, right? In terms of like, something you would have in court, you have evidence, there's this plan, there's a life insurance policy, there's, Laurie cheated on Michael, or there's that's the stuff that I'm talking about, right? With Michael, it's predatory. It's always, there's his motivation is Laurie, but he's not necessarily, you can remove those two things and then it kind of goes back to what it was in the first movie, right? He's fixated. It's a predator and a prey. He's fixated and he's hunting. And that's what it is. And then he's going to kill anybody in his path. Again, you don't want to think too hard about it. It's a slasher movie, but but you could do that. Now, it doesn't ruin it if you keep it in, but I've always found that interesting. That's like, oh, you don't actually need it, really, at the end of the day. Now, you can't just remove it and leave everything the same, obviously, but you'd have to make some small adjustments. But no, I think it's got a great score. Alan Howarth and John Carpenter with the synth. I mean, it's one of the best scores in any Halloween film, period. Some great moments with Myers and taking it at face value, the big reveal, the twist at the end of the movie. Oh my God, it's his sister, the brother. Holy shit, and I mean, it works as a great 1-2 punch. And there he is. And Darren Sands knows all about this from the Slaughtered Lamb Movie podcast. I mean, one of the not necessarily the longest, but one of the biggest, most epic firewalks ever. Ever. Dick Warlock engulfed in an inferno. What? I mean, he can't even see. It's just.
What can we say about that Dick, man? He's got balls of steel.
He's got the Dick's got balls of steel, and I believe they shot that like 2 or 3 times. him just walking down that. I mean, oh my God, he is it. Listen, there's been a lot of fire walks. Freddy was on fire. Maniac Cop, I think there was a big fire walk in that one or whatever. Or maybe it's part 2. I can't remember. There's been longer fire walks, but I don't think I've ever seen one as engulfed. Like just wild. You can't even see his face. You can't even see him. He just looks like this. It's incredible. One of the best firewalks ever, period. It's a lot to love about Halloween 2. And if they had ended it there, man,
that would have been perfect.
Interesting. Now, let's go on to Friday the 13th part 2.
Yes.
You take it away, my man, because I know how much you love Friday the 13th part 2. Talk to me, Tony. Talk to me.
Yeah, this is like my third all-time favorite horror movie. Like if I were doing a top 5, like what are my top 5 favorite horror movies? Friday part 3 is
part 2.
Friday part 2 is number 3 on my list of horror films. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've mentioned it before. It introduced us to Jason, Sackhead Jason, which is my favorite look of Jason.
Yeah,
it's a look that I really wish they had stuck with. Because as the photo shoots that I've done with that specific version of Jason, and just seeing just different ways that you can light the sack and create. To me, I've always said this. A dude coming at me in a goalie mask, I'm like, okay, this dude's a pissed off goalie. What the fuck's wrong with him?
Pissed off goalie.
I mean, that's literally what I'm thinking.
He lost 14-0, so he's angry.
Like he must have had a bad night or some shit, and he's pissed. A dude coming at me wearing a fucking sack with one eye, okay? That's just fucking, what the fuck? What's wrong with this dude? Like, why is it just one eye? First of all, there's just a lot of creepiness to that look that I really wish they had stuck with. I understand the hockey mask is the franchise identity. It's its brand. I'm not arguing that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah. And I understand that's the iconic look that everyone loves with the character. But it would have been very interesting had they had just stuck with it and stayed with it. And you had the right people at that time in the 80s, really protecting the character of Jason, and it would have been very interesting to see. And then obviously, we're introduced to arguably one of the best, and 100 times over better than fucking Laurie Strode. I'll argue that to my grave. Final girl in all of fucking horror with Amy Steele's character.
But Tony!
Yeah. Amy Steele went toe-to-toe with Jason. Okay, Laurie's fucking running and got 2 lucky bullet gunshots in the eyes at the end of fucking part 2.
And the Oscar goes to... No.
Yeah. And the participation trophy goes to...
Oh!
Yeah. Anyways, no, but for real, I mean, look, I'm not saying Jamie Lee Curtis hasn't had a better career than Amy Steele, but if we're going to talk Final Girls, I mean, her character in Friday the 13th Part 2 is arguably one of the best Final Girls in all of horror.
Listen, I agree, and it's too bad she didn't come back, because she thought about it, right? Or she was going to.
She
or something?
Did, it's unfortunate. She thought, her career was obviously going to go in a different direction at that time. And it didn't really work out for her that way. It just that's show business for unfortunately. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen the idea that they had penned for her in part 3. I'm sure in hindsight, I'm sure she's probably kicking herself in the ass, because she really probably could have been the face of this franchise. She would have been the Jamie Lee Curtis of the Friday the 13th franchise. Yeah. No question. She would have been the Jamie Lee, the Nev Campbell, whatever. And they probably would have done it easily 2 to 3 movies with her. But it didn't work out that way. And,
it's too bad in some ways, because Friday the 13th has their turnover rate is every movie, Right. I mean, Friday the 13th really has a final guy rather than a final girl, because Tommy Jarvis in 4, Tommy in 5, and Tommy in 6, and even Vincent, DeSantis' Never Hike Alone films are revolving around Tommy Jarvis. So there's a really the Friday the 13th franchise is all about a final guy, really, and Jason.
Ultimately,
really.
right. Ultimately, that's where it gets
yes,
to. Correct.
Yes, yeah.
That is correct.
There really is no singular final girl that you can bring forward because, there's like 5 of them and they all end up dying or just not showing up again or going to a, insane asylum or, whatever. So yeah, no, I agree. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Like what we mentioned with Halloween 2, Friday the 13th Part 2 is 6 aesthetically gets as close as you got with the original 2 movies, but the one thing I will say about Part 2 is that you do feel like you're at the same location, but you're at the training center that's like up the road or some shit. They're not on the lake, but we know that they have established it early in the film that this is a camp counseling training center, that the campgrounds are, up a little ways and that you're not allowed to go there and all that bullshit. But aesthetically, I do feel like you're at the same location. Obviously, when you progress into 3 and 4, you start to go, where the fuck are they? They look like they're out in Texas somewhere. Certainly not the same feels and vibes of the first 2 movies. And arguably, we talked about Janet's kill. Probably my favorite kill in all of horror. Next to Tina's death. If I were to put number 2 after Tina's death in Nightmare on Elm Street, number 2 would be my dude in the wheelchair going backwards down the stairs in the fucking zoom in shot. That's such a fucking great kill. And it's the best. It's my favorite in the franchise, and it's probably my second favorite kill if I were to rank. We should do that one day, rank our favorite kills in all of horror. It would probably be number 2. Would be Mark's. Mark, isn't it? I think it's
Mark. Yeah.
That's such a fucking great
kill. It's a great kill. Thunder, lightning, rain, machete to the face. The shot
was created.
Yep. Going down backward. It's fantastic. No, it's great. It's one of my favorite kills in the entire franchise as well. And I love that. And Jason runs. He's got a pitchfork. He's got a ton of utilities at his disposal, man. She's got pitchfork, spear. He even uses a butcher knife. When he pops up from the bed when we first see him. His fingernails are all black and stuff.
All black and stuff. It's hillbilly Jason. It's wrong turn Jason.
That's right.
It's exactly how I wish they would have. I just wish whoever was behind the scenes just had given that character a chance to let it grow.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, look, again, no debate, no argument. I get why. I've even said this before. That doesn't mean you can't still have the hockey mask. I would have loved to have seen the Part 2 version of Jason don the hockey mask, like hair all hanging out, looking all funky and shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been a very fucking cool look, Instead, you got fucking Goldberg Jason by the time you get to 3. And
Richard Brooker, traps.
Jason's been doing some serious roiding.
He's doing this. He's been doing these lifts.
And even though the irony is, if I'm not mistaken, the first 4 films take place on one long weekend. Or not? Sorry. 2, 3, and 4 take place on not the first 4. 2, 3, and 4 take place like on, isn't it one long weekend or some shit?
Or a week or something like that. It's something like that.
Yeah, like it's in a very short time frame.
It's something like that. I know 3 and 4 for sure are like the same weekend or whatever. The Friday the 13th heads in the chat room will let us know. But yeah, you're right. It's something like that. Although the continuity for the Friday the 13th franchise, although every film is in one linear timeline, some of the years or the days and weeks kind of bleed into each other. But no, look, Friday the 13th Part 2 is a great sequel. It's one of the best Friday the 13th movies in the franchise, period. It's one of the best horror sequels in slasher, period. And there is an argument to be made. You could say that Friday the 13th 2 is better than Halloween 2. There is an argument to be made, but then it comes down to
Dave.
What are we measuring it against? Well, I'm saying
starting shit.
I know, but that argument, you can make that. Now, of course, you have to then formulate your argument and say why, unless your argument is just, I like it better. And you could say, I like it better. Well, that's an argument. That's a measuring stick. But I like to look at things like, what are we measuring? Impact, box office, reviews, how it relates to the wider franchise. What does it mean to the movie before? What does it mean to the movies ahead? How does it go? There's a lot you could break down and figure out, what could be, what is the better part two for the longevity of one's franchise? And there is an argument to be made that it's Friday the 13th 2, even though I like Halloween 2 the best, because it's my favorite sequel in the Halloween franchise. And I like Halloween over Friday. I adore Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah,
it's
I would
really
agree.
good.
As far as, look, I love, there is the sentiment to Halloween 2, but as far as objectively from a filmmaking, when you look at the two films, Friday the 13th Part 2, it nails it on all cylinders. It honors the original, and it introduces us to obviously an iconic character that took over the 80s, and it just, like you said, and the thing of it is that even the endings, like Halloween 2's ending is pretty cemented, like there was really no intention of going on.
Right. No, it wasn't.
Friday the 13th Part 2, it's like, all right, did he crash through the window? Was that in her head? Like, there's
why is the dog still alive?
Why is the dog still alive? Like, there's so many questions that you're like, okay, this is left for, there's more coming, and just the only thing, it's kind of like what sequels eventually do to their franchises. If you look at it objectively, I know people do like Friday the 13th.
My light just went out. Huh.
Your light? Yeah.
I guess it wasn't as charged as I thought it was. I got to get, that's weird. I thought I charged it. Anyway, no big deal. Continue.
With Friday the 13th Part 3, it basically goes into a whole new direction. And I think that's because, one, they didn't have Amy Steele coming back. I think if Amy Steele had come back, the story would have felt very smooth, you know what I mean, as far as transitioning from 2 to 3. 3, there's just such a huge shift. It's not like Halloween 4 to Halloween 5. It's not like that. Right. But with 3, you do see this shift of, one, it doesn't even look like they're on Crystal Lake anymore. 2, your Jason, the whole look of Jason has changed entirely.
Well, dude, and according to Harry Hagen here, he says Part 2 is on a Friday, Part 3 is on a Saturday, and Part 4 is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. If that's true, what the hell happened? Maybe it's not even Jason. Maybe the guy, how can Jason go from Steve Dash to this big hulking in 24 hours?
Right. And Steve Dash, who I'm right now about 5 to 6 pounds heavier than he was in Friday the 13th Part 3. And I'm not big. I mean, 192, 193. And from what what Google says, he's like 5'11" and 185 pounds in Friday the 13th Part 2. He's not a big guy.
Right.
And then you get like the next day, you get this new look of Jason, and dude looks like fucking Goldberg. And I'm like, okay, like, and in a way, it takes kind of a shit. Friday the 13th Part 3 takes a shit on Part 2 because of that reason alone. It's like you do this dramatic change in Jason, and you're telling me like, okay, this is what happened in all of like a few hours?
But is it clearly defined? Like when I watch Friday 2 and 3, is it clearly defined that this is just a couple of like a day later? Because remember, at the beginning of Part 3, he's still in his jumpsuit, but it looks so bad because like the flannel is not even fitting him properly because it's like it's coming up to like right here. Right. He's laying on the ground, and then he gets up, and then he goes to where the couple that owns the grocery store, and he changes his outfit. Right. So I mean, that's like moments. And it's like, wait a second, you're telling me like this is supposed to be moments. That's right.
This is the same Jason. So
that's right. I forgot about that.
I understand why people love 3. It's in 3D, great kills. You're introduced to the iconic hockey mask. I get it. But when you look at it from 2 to 3, it's dog shit, in my opinion.
So technically Friday the 13th 2, maybe Friday the 13th on a Friday, but Friday the 13th 3 and 4 don't take place on Friday the 13th. They just happen to take place that weekend.
That weekend. It's a continuation of that. And that's the thing. Here's the other thing. The last time you see Amy Steele's character is she's shown on the television in part 3. Well, what happened to her? You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, there's no mention of her. She had a hospital, like, what the fuck? There's no mention of, like, you don't hear anything about, like, so if this is supposed to be the weekend, right? Here's the thing. This is supposed to be the long weekend. All this shit just went down during part 2, and yet motherfuckers are still showing up to the lake, and there's no cops doing investigating.
Yeah. And the lake looks, I mean, because they shot it in California, it looks like a swamp.
It was man-made. Like, what the fuck's going on here? You got this crazy ass killer on the loose. I mean, yes, I know they talk about it in the news story and stuff like that at the beginning of part 3, but they really downplay it, the urgency of what's going on and what's happening. You know what I mean? They really downplay it. And that's why I think it's unfortunate, because I think you would have seen the aftermath of part 2, hit a bit more in part 3 if Amy Steele had, signed up for the project. I think
you're probably right.
They were taking that same approach of Halloween 2, if I'm not mistaken, that Amy Steele's character was supposed to be in a hospital and Jason was going to follow her there and wreak havoc in a hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Now, that's a whole nother, can of worms that I don't really want to get into, because yes, now you have fans going, well, now Friday the 13th part 3 is ripping off Halloween 2. And, it's like,
no, but you're right. Friday the 13th part 2 is great. And I think what's cool about it too is that because of the way Friday the 13th part 1 ended, right? And I've always figured this anyway, and I think it's been out there anyway, but watching the recent episode of The Thing with Two Heads with Sean Clark and Christopher Nelson, of course, they had Tom Savini on, and he was talking about Friday the 13th, obviously, and I think it was, unless it was another, maybe it was another interview, but I think it was this episode. He was talking about how, of course, he didn't come back for part 2 or 3 because in his mind, Jason was dead. In his mind, now it plays a bit ambiguous, but it makes sense when you realize the intention of that ending scene with Jason coming out of the water was not to set up a sequel, although it certainly kind of does that, but it wasn't to do that. It wasn't to communicate to the audience that Jason is alive. It was to communicate sort of like, ooh, that's weird. Is it or isn't it? But at the same time, he said it was a dream. She was having a dream. That's why she says, but, where's the boy? Ma'am, we didn't find any boy. Then he's still there. He's still in the lake, right? You know, and then, of course, they showed the lake and a few air bubbles kind of pop up. But that was supposed to be a dream. He said, Jason's a boy. He drowned in the water. He said, so why, now he's an adult in the woods? How the hell did that happen? Like, how is he alive? So, they wanted I believe it was that episode. They wanted a Carrie moment, right? At the end of Carrie, of course, the arm comes out of the grave, not necessarily communicating that she really is still alive, but just sort of it's the subconscious fear. It's the fear that has been suppressed that is still running rampant through Alice is still there, right? She's having this dream. Oh, and there's Jason. Oh, God. It's not necessarily that he really did do that, right? Of course, they take that and they run rampant with it. That no, it actually did happen, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But my point is that what's cool is that you make part 2 and now you have this new character and this whole kind of new mythology that you're building and this mystery. And of course you have that camp thing. Let me tell you about Jason, and he goes into that spiel, into the thing, into this, the story. And it's interesting. It's like, is there a Jason? Is there not a Jason? Like, what is, like, what's this really kind of weird and strange? And, so there's a mystique about part 2 that is sort of interesting. And I agree with you. I think Amy Steele is a great final girl, the best in the Friday franchise for sure.
Yep.
And there's some great moments, great kills, great moments. Same kind of mood, you know. Yeah, it's really good. And God, there's something else I was going to say on it too, and I forget now. Damn it. You got Crazy Ralph, of course, is in it, and he meets his demise next to a tree. But yeah, there's lots of good stuff.
Love the story that Paul tells of Jason.
I was just saying that. Yeah.
You know, that's a great scene. Lot of great moments in there, in that movie. And
the ending,
Sandra and Jeff's kill, you know, the spear through the bed while they're having sex. That's a
great.
Really good kill.
That is great
as well too. Yeah, I mean the ending with him jumping through the window and is it a dream? Is it not a dream?
I know. One of the best transitions of all time, which is no. Talk about seeing the dead dog and then cutting to a hot dog on the barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good.
That 80s humor, right?
Yes, exactly.
It just
that replaces Kevin Bacon's boner.
That's you know, thinking about Friday 3, you know, with 2. There literally was no urgency at all around Crystal Lake. You know, like, hey, we got a serial killer on the loose who just fucking killed like 20 kids at the lake again, and we haven't found the killer, and you know, like, what the fuck? And you got another group of people going up there like, let's just fucking chill out and whatever. It's
Cops
fine.
don't give a shit. Cops don't give a shit.
Shit.
They didn't close anything down. Nothing.
Like, there's like the continuity or the storytelling is just so. After 2, it's like, especially 2 to 4. You know, again, I understand why people like 3 and 4, but when you do look at it from that perspective of like, man, you know, like there was just no urgency going on at Crystal Lake. Trying to find this killer who is fucking killing all these people. Now I know at the end of 3, you know, they think Jason is presumed dead and they bring him to the hospital and then he gets up again and, you know, wrecks shit. But during all of 3, there was, you know, no. See that I think that's what 3 might have been missing too, is like a not saying Loomis, but a Loomis type character. You know, whether it's
an anchor,
an anchor, a detective, like really trying to stress to the people who live around the lake, stay in your house. This is what's fucking going on. You know, like there's a killer on the loose. He's killed about X amount of, you know, kids now up at the counseling training center. We haven't found him. He's at large, you know, really making that threat, you know, very aware to the people around town, because as far as I'm concerned, people just were going about their day like whatever.
They were. And I think that's the difference between the Friday the 13th franchise and in a lot of ways the Elm Street franchise and the Halloween franchise. So we do know that Heather Langenkamp, of course, came back in Elm Street 3. And of course, she was playing a fictionalized version of herself in New Nightmare. But even the Elm Street series has bounced around a little bit, right? You have Heather, then you have you have Nancy, then you have Jesse, then you have Heather again, Nancy again, but also the Elm Street kids and their,
Kristen,
all that,
Alice.
Kristen, all that. And then you get Alice. That's right. So there's a lot of bouncing around. Same with the Friday franchise. Really, the Elm Street and the Friday franchises are, from a story perspective, you know, really are the antagonist's story. Like, you are rooting for, like, you go for that. Not that you don't go to Halloween to see Michael Myers either, but I'm just saying that what the Elm Street and Friday series don't have is that protagonist anchor, that constant that is through every movie that you become emotionally attached to over the course of several films, like a Sidney Prescott in Scream and things like that. And of course, like Laurie Strode or Dr. Loomis in the Halloween franchise. So really, with the Friday movies, you're going and you're rooting for Jason because there isn't an anchor. You know, the anchor comes and goes. The only anchor they have is Tommy Jarvis, and he's played by different people. So, you know, but the character, there's an anchor in him, has a final guy. Really, it's true. The Friday the 13th franchise doesn't really have a final girl, the franchise, but the franchise has a final guy. And that's cool. But yeah, really the Friday movies are, you know, they're they're camp, they're cheese. They are from a technical standpoint, they're not as well made as some of the other their franchise counterparts, but that's because there's just a very simple formula that they follow, and it's just about Jason. So people go to root for him rather than the protagonist. So it's interesting to. But yeah,
well,
I mean,
like, whereas with Halloween 4 complements Halloween 2. It continues the story, whether, I mean, obviously you have to suspend your belief that Michael survives the fire and all that. But they stay within the continuity of it. It stays, it carries on. Yes, Laurie's not there, but you have her daughter, so that it's still anchored to Laurie in,
right.
in a way, right? You have that connection with, Jamie Lloyd, and whatnot. And that's, that's really important. What does the follow-up movie after that, I'm skipping over Halloween 3 because it has obviously had nothing to do with Michael, but when you're comparing Friday Part 3 to Halloween 4 is the better complementary film to the follow-up.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And you have your anchor in Dr. Loomis.
Right, that too.
Yeah, and you have your anchor with Loomis in 5. You have your anchor with Loomis in 6, and then you have your anchor with Jamie Lee Curtis in H2O. Like, I mean, there's always, Resurrection is obviously a catastrophic failure. There is no anchor, but yeah, it's interesting stuff. So also too, looking at. I've done this the last 2 episodes. I'll do it here as well. Looking at box office, of course. So looking at the original Halloween from 1978, that box office, according to Box Office Mojo. Now this is, I don't think this is minus, like, not including inflation or re-releases or anything like that. This is just first initial release, about $47,160,000 on a $325,000 budget. Highest grossing independent movie of all time at that time, or at least horror independent movie at that time. Huge, absolutely huge. Halloween 2 from 1981, big step down, of course. And we're looking at domestic, and worldwide, because it wasn't released worldwide into theaters anyway. 25,533,000, but still a good take on I don't know what the budget would have been, probably maybe 5 million, something like that. Still a good take. It was released in about 1,200 theaters across the U.S. and Canada. So 25 million. You look at the original Friday the 13th. And it was a huge success. It made nearly $40 million, the original Friday the 13th, which was great, $39,786,000. And then Friday the 13th Part 2 stepped down, but still, acceptable at $21,722,000. Still acceptable. I mean, at least successful enough that they did a Part 3 the next year.
it makes me wonder, back in the 80s when Friday the 13th Part 2 came out, people must have been like, wait, what? Because again, not to get into that debate again we did last week, but horror movie sequels for the slasher genre at that time,
correct,
they weren't doing a Part 2. You know what I mean? So it makes me wonder, were people looking, were people going, wait, what? They're doing another one? Like, what's going on here? I thought the killer died. Like, her head got her head was decapitated. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I wonder if that's why it didn't do so well. And then because didn't Part 3 do better than Part 2?
I think it, let me just check. I believe it did, but it also had the 3D gimmick as well. Right. So we have to remember that. Friday the 13th Part 3 box office. Yeah, it was about $15 million more. But it could have been more screens as well. I'm not seeing how many theaters or how many screens it was released on. That's a factor that people always have to remember too when you're judging box office receipts. Look at how many theaters, how many screens a movie is playing on. But anyway, 36,690,000. So up from 21 million.
My guess is that's probably what happened, because it's 1981 and you're getting Friday the
part of it.
13th Part 2,
Yep.
Halloween 2. People are probably thinking like 2, like what? Like, you know what I mean? It's just because it wasn't common. It was not a thing that was being done. And then obviously word of mouth. Oh, this Jason character and whatnot. You know, and maybe through VHS rental or beta, whatever, you know, people were watching it on in the early 80s. You know, and then that got people to see part 3, and obviously the gimmick of 3D certainly helps
for sure. And then of course with part 4 it made like 35 million or something like that as well because of the final chapter.
The final chapter.
Yeah, that was at a time when people were still naive and ignorant to the to not really psych, you know what I mean? It's just a marketing thing. But yeah, no, you're right. Let's check out the poll that I had up here.
I can only imagine.
Jeez, no surprise, of course. I guess just because our viewers are largely Halloween fans and will tend to vote with what they love.
It makes me wonder if you ask that same question on a channel that's strictly Friday the 13th fan base, how that question
it would probably be the complete opposite.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I'm saying again, the question is, which do you prefer? You know, it doesn't, I can't, you know, you can't have a poll where you ask, you know, based on these factors, but it's too much, right? So all you can do with polls is just basically ask, which one do you like better? And if you're a Halloween fan, well, you're going to like, you know, Halloween 2 better. And that's really all it is at the end of the day. So it's not a scientific poll. You know, there's no measuring stick here. Right. You know what I mean? So which do you prefer? 222 people have voted so far. 73% have said Halloween 2, 1981, and 27% have said Friday the 13th, Part 2.
I'm
this
curious.
This is the furthest away, the biggest
that we've ever seen.
Yeah, in the 3 polls that we've done over these last couple of weeks.
I'm curious though next week's show, because objectively, one movie is certainly. If we are going to ask the question, which film is better than this one movie is objectively way better than the other. Like it's not even a question, but because of your channel, I have a feeling I know what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see.
If you're truly, I will say this next week, if you are truly a horror movie fan, there should be no question which of the two should win.
But Tony, you can't tell me what to like.
I know. But I will say, hands down, one is definitely better than the other, and there's no argument.
Generally speaking, one is more beloved than the other. Yes, that is.
In fact, they're in that specific part of the genre that is revered as the best. Okay, we're picking the best, and we're putting it up against something that is
largely considered one of the worst. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But
still, it will probably win.
Maybe. I mean, it's entirely possible. I don't know. It's entirely possible. Anyways, we're going to jump over to the chat room now and see what all you guys are saying about Halloween 2 and Friday the 13th Part 2. If you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section below and let Tony and I know your thoughts on both of these movies and how they compare and which one you like better over the other and all the reasons why and the kills and the slices and the dices and the whatever. Jump into the comment section down below and start talking Halloween 2 from 1981 and Friday the 13th Part 2. Let us know. Okay. Let me just see here. Oh no, why is that not showing up? Uh-oh. Hang on a sec. I'm trying to... Oh, that's weird. I'm trying to get to the super chats that came in.
Yeah, you had a few.
I know. But for some reason, it's not allowing me to see the super chats. I can see some of them. Damn it. I wonder why that is. That's so strange. I've gone into my YouTube studio and I'm clicking on super chats when I go to see all, because I can't see the ones that came in earlier because they've gone by already. So I've gone into my see all, which usually brings me up a list, and the list is not formulating. It's just a blank screen. Why is that happening, YouTube? Why is that happening? Okay, let me see.
Dave's just taking our money and he won't answer our questions.
Yeah, it's exactly what I've decided to do.
You're gonna get a long novel on that in an email, I'm sure.
Probably. So I can go as far back as to Edward Nito. In the chat room, I can go as far back as to Edward Nito's $10 super chat. I wonder why this isn't showing up. That's so weird. I'm refreshing. Hit refresh. That's so weird. Let me just exit out of this one and try another one. Oh, you know what? Let me try my... Can I get it on my phone, I wonder? I wonder if... let me look on my phone and see if the YouTube Studio app on my phone brings it up. Is there a way to...
Should I tell the kiddies what next week's going to be?
I don't know. Should we? Should we keep it a surprise? Maybe.
I don't know. I think we should tell them.
Well, no. We don't want to let them think about it too much.
That's true,
right? Because then they're going to vote. They might vote differently. You want them to want to spring it on them.
That's true.
Why is this not? That's so strange. My apologies, folks, for this. It will eventually clear itself. I don't know.
Worst case scenario is this.
Well, worst case scenario, we just answer them next week.
Yeah, if you can hold on to the questions and start. When we get to the question point, we'll start with the ones that you couldn't get to for whatever reason.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can send them in now. If you want to send in a super chat now, you can, because I can see it in the chat room. But for some reason, it's a blank screen when I go to the page I always go to. And I can see it here, your super chat and sticker activity, see all, click see all, blank screen. Why? It's not showing me the list. I don't know why.
It'll probably pop up and we'll just do it. It's
okay. Well, I'll keep checking.
We're not doing it intentionally, so
no. I'll keep checking. If for whatever reason we can't get to the first, there was 10 or 7 or whatever that came in. However many it was, if we don't get to them on this show, Tony and I will make sure to pick them up next week on next week's show. But for the sake of time and to keep the show moving today, let's jump to the first one that I am able to see scrolling back in the chat room, which is Edward Nito sends in $10, and I'll keep checking back to the other screen throughout the show here. Edward Nito.
You know what? Hold on. You know what? If you're in the, if you're in the chat room and you sent in a super chat, you could do it. You could re-ask the question in the chat. And
that might be a bit difficult though to keep track of that.
It's true.
Yeah. Don't worry, we will get to it. I'll keep checking. Edward Nito sends in $10 and says, "Sup, dudes? Do you guys remember Mrs. Voorhees' eyes opening at the end of Friday the 13th Party? I remember seeing that when the movie aired on cable when I was a kid at the end of Friday the 13th Party." I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean, party.
I've never seen a version where the eyes open of the head.
Maybe he means part 1. Maybe he said party.
Yeah.
I've never seen any Friday the 13th movie where Mrs. Voorhees' eyes open at the end of a movie.
No.
So I'm not really sure.
Not even an outtake, right?
No. Maybe
like
it's
the
the
second cut or something. Like I've never seen anything like that. Yeah.
Maybe it's the Mandela effect. Josh McKenna sends in $4.99 and just has retracted the message. Sorry about that, Josh. Keep in mind, folks, I don't know why you retracted it. Maybe you didn't want to ask it. I'm not sure. Or maybe we already answered it. Keep in mind that when you do send in super chats, if you retract the message, that doesn't retract the payment. So you might as well leave the message there. I don't know why you retracted it in case we already answered it through our conversation. That's fair. But just so people know that when you retract the message, that's not retracting the payment. The payment still goes through. So if you want to get your payment back, that's a whole process. You got to go through YouTube and all that kind of stuff. I have no control over that. All right. Frank Riker sends in $5 and says, "I consider Friday the 13th Part 2 the start of the franchise and the ultimate horror sequel, but nothing comes close to H2's Nurse Karen's boobs floating in a hot tub." Frank, I thought, Frank, that you were going to bring it home, and then there it was. Frank Riker, ladies and gentlemen. Frank Riker. Josh McKenna follows up with another $4.99. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate that. Says, I know someone was murdered in the It's Me Billy house. That is true. Did you choose that particular house because of the creepy history? No. I chose the house because we were looking for a house that was in the same vein and sort of style as the original house in Black Christmas. Now, the house in It's Me, Billy is not supposed to be the same house from the original film. We just wanted a nice big home in that sort of vein. And we were looking at places in Toronto, but of course, Toronto is just really expensive. I mean, a lot of these homes, would be like, $4,000 or $5,000 a day. And that was just out of our budget. So we found this home on a website called Set Scouter, which is specifically for filmmakers and, producers who go to look for, you can put your home up onto this site and open your home up to film crews and things like that. And I found this home in Almont, Ontario, and I was like, oh my God, it was spectacular. My mind was blown. It was a price that was in our range. And so that is why. But I had no idea there was a murder there about, I want to say 4 or 5 years earlier. That was told to us from John, who owns the house. He said that about 4 or 5 years prior, when we went up to do a location scout, he said about 4 or 5 years prior, there was a city councilor who, it was his home, and it was a murder-suicide. So his daughter's boyfriend came to the house, shot and killed him, the councilor, shot and killed him, shot his daughter, she survived, but then turned the gun on himself and killed himself in the home.
Damn.
Now, the funny thing is, so I didn't find that out until after we were really interested in the house. He told us that in case he's a realtor anyway, and he has to divulge that kind of stuff. Not that we were buying the house, but he just felt, he felt he needed to tell us that. We didn't care. We were like, no, we understand. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. But we love the home and we want to shoot here. Now, I thought I had told the cast and the crew this before we went up. And so I was having a conversation with Victoria and Shelby and Malika before we went to bed that night. I was upstairs and I was saying, was it that night or was it the next day? Anyways, I was talking to them and I brought this up and they're like, what? You didn't tell us this. And I'm like, I could have sworn I did. They said I didn't. They're probably right. I probably didn't. My apologies, ladies, again. But yeah, so really creepy. But you know what? I didn't feel anything being in the house. The actors didn't. It's a beautiful home. I didn't, I wasn't, at nighttime being in the house, because we stayed in the house as well. Not all of us, but a lot of us did. And I didn't feel like any weird vibes or ghostly stuff. Didn't feel anything. Nothing. I slept like a baby, and so did everybody else, presumably. So, but yeah, that's very interesting indeed. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that very much. The Classically Deceased sends in $5 and says, hey, D&T, if you two could star in either Halloween 2 or Friday 2, which one would you be in if you could play a character? Would you want to survive or die? Tony?
Die for sure. Friday 2.
Friday 2?
Friday 2. Yeah, that just looks like it would have been a fun crew to work with and collaborate with. You're working with your peers, your youth. Halloween 2, everyone was kind of separated from each other,
right?
For the most part, or put in small little groups together at times. Yeah.
By the way, sorry, dude. I found the super chats. It worked.
Cool.
I went over to the other screen instead to check them out, and I got them.
Yeah.
I went to a different screen.
Definitely killed. Yeah, that I think when you do a horror movie, it's like the first thing you do. How am I going to die? How am I going to die? You know what I mean? Like it's there's a badge of honor, to wear when you're killed in a horror movie. And yeah, I would say of the two, Friday 2 would have been a cool ass set to work on and just have fun.
I agree, and I would say that for me, it's got to be Halloween 2, just because I'm a huge Michael Myers fan. He's my favorite horror character. Halloween's my favorite horror movie. And I would want to die as well. I'd want to die at the hands of Michael Myers. Some really cool death. For sure. Anyways, I found the super chats. I totally forgot that I can also go over to another screen and click and find them. And I found them. I've never used this other screen. I'm so used to going into my studio. But maybe I'll use this one from now on. So if anybody in the chat room mentioned that, because they too have a YouTube channel, my apologies for missing it. But I found them. Amazing. Great. Okay. So let's go back to the very beginning. Josh McKenna sends in $9.99 and says, what is your favorite Canadian restaurant chain? I live in Michigan and always wanted to visit Canada, so I wanted to know what chains are strictly Canadian or a good Canadian dish. Well, I mean, the cliche, stereotypical thing to say in terms of Canadian dish would be poutine, which of course is French fries, gravy, and cheese, and it is very good. Now, some places make it better than others, but if you ever go to Quebec, because it's, I believe it started there. There's some good poutine there for sure. But Canadian chains, I mean, Tim Hortons obviously is, it's American owned now. I think we were talking about this last week. But it is it started here in Canada. It's Canadian for all intents and purposes, even though it's American owned now. But it's not a restaurant per se. It's a donut shop. But I would say that Swiss Chalet, I think, is Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. Swiss Chalet, which is just like a chicken place. It's a rotisserie chicken kind of place. You can get all sorts of, like chicken. It's chicken place, but it's rotisserie chicken, I think, and you can get fries and salads and sandwiches, whatever. It's really good. And the gravy is really good too. Or not the gravy, the dipping sauce. Whatever dipping sauce is at Swiss Chalet is really, really good. I believe Swiss Chalet is Canadian. Let me just double check on that. I think it is anyway. Swiss Chalet. Is it Canadian? Go to Wikipedia. Swiss Chalet is a Canadian chain of casual dining restaurants founded in 1954 in Toronto. Swiss Chalet has locations in most Canadian provinces across Canada, but about 80% are in Ontario and none in Quebec. Well, there you go. So 80% of the chains are just in the province of Ontario and none of them are in Quebec. Cool. Oh, Harvey's too. I think Harvey's is Canadian, right? Harvey's is a food restaurant chain operating in Canada, except for British Columbia. Is it Canadian? Yes, it's Canadian. It's a burger joint. But it's really good. It's really good. So there you go. Harvey's, Swiss Chalet. But if you don't like that, we have all the American shit up here too. I mean, not everything, but we have a lot of what you guys have down there too. Sure. Okay. Oh, where am I going here? Sorry. Get back to this. Okay. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. And then Music Man sends in a very generous super chat of $20 and just says, woot, woot, woot. It's like, I think he sends in is it a super sticker maybe? Thank you very much, buddy. Really appreciate that. Matthew Farisi sends in $9.99 and says, Halloween 2 takes the cake here. I loathe the sibling angle even more than most, and am lukewarm about Dick's performance, although he looks great. Still, Halloween 2 is very good, great atmosphere and kills. I agree. Although I do like Dick's performance. I mean, it's not the same in terms of continuity, but I like it.
Every woman loves a good Dick performance.
There you go. Matthew Farisi, what are you, Frank Riker tonight? Matthew Farisi sends in $4.99 and says, Friday 2 is fine, but I'm more attached to Jason, as we all know and love him. Parts 3, 4, and 6 are my Jason. You're not alone in that. But I agree with Tony. I think the sack is underrated. Edward Nito sends in $10. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay, I'm caught up, but we have a few more here that came in. AK Channel TV sends in $4.99 and says, Friday sequels have aged poorly. Cheesy. I can't sit through any besides 4 and 6 from start to finish. I think the same about everything after Halloween 2 until Halloween 18. Really? Well, maybe how old are you, AK Channel TV? Maybe age plays a part? I'm not sure.
Sounds like age might play a part.
Maybe not.
You want to give him or her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, for sure. But I do agree with you. I mean, even, looking back at some of those older films, certainly they are dated for sure. But I think because of the nostalgic attachment and love for those older movies, you know, you're able to look past them, right? Because you're looking at them within their context, right? Raymond M sends in $2 and says, you guys should amp up the gore in Billy Chapter 2. The gore in Billy Chapter 2 will not be amped up. There will be more blood for sure, just because, you know, Chapter 2 is essentially the, you know, second and third act of the whole thing, right? They're essentially, it's two movies, you know, or it's one movie with two parts. So there's a little bit of something that starts to amp up a little bit, because obviously now Sam and her grandmother are trapped. They need to figure out how to get out of there. It's a face-off between Billy and Agnes and Sam and Jess. And that's not a spoiler. I mean, that's, you know, that's where we're going now. So, you know, obviously things amp up a little bit, but you have to keep in mind too, I mean, the more, you know, we wouldn't do this anyway, because we don't want to turn Black Christmas into something that it's not in relation to the original, right? The original. Stylistically, we chose to make a film that was more nuanced, more atmospheric, slower burn, you know, more theater of the mind. So it feels like it lives in the same universe as the original film. And that's one of the compliments that we've gotten, which is it feels that way. So to suddenly turn Chapter 2 into, you know, a Friday the 13th movie.
Gore fest, that would be like, wait, what?
Yeah, like what's now that doesn't mean that we can't ratchet up a little bit here or there within the confines of what's happening, of course. But we don't want to turn it into something that it's not. But even if we did, it costs money, right? So the more that you want to happen, the more epic you want the kills to be, the more things you want to happen, we got to raise the money, you know? And sure. Because Black Christmas is not as popular as Friday the 13th or Elm Street, when you're crowdfunding a Black Christmas movie, we have to be mindful, okay, what's realistic here? Like, we would love to be able to do this, and this, and oh, that'd be amazing, and have them out there and do this, but that's a $250,000 movie. And are we really going to raise $250,000 for a Black Christmas sequel to, you know, our other one? Probably not. Probably not. We did raise our budget before, but we just raised it. We raised $64,000 in the last week. We just crossed. Are we going to then go from $64,000 to $200,000? Probably not, right? You know what I mean? Because Black Christmas isn't nearly as popular and as beloved as Friday the 13th or Elm Street or Halloween. So we have to be very mindful when we're writing the script. What do we believe we can realistically do and raise? Like, what do we think we can do? So we're working within that and not sacrifice on the quality of the story, you know? So yeah, there's not going to be any sort of, you know, explosions and, you know, like the house isn't going to explode. So well, there goes our whole budget. You know what I mean? So, right? Yeah. Let me. Cody, our moderator, he had said, I got him urging to watch Yellowstone. Do it. I'm so obsessed with that show. And I hear it's really good.
1883 is really good too, with Tim McGraw and his wife, Faith Hill, who I didn't even realize that was Faith Hill until about like halfway through the fucking run of it. I'm like, because I kept skipping over the credits, and then I think it was episode 5. I watched the credits and I saw Faith Hill. I'm like, Faith Hill, like his wife Faith Hill, like what the fuck? Like I didn't, because she's doing such a great job, I didn't even recognize her. And then obviously 1923, which is also really good as well too. Actually, personally, I liked 1883 better than 1923. It's unfortunate that 1883 isn't getting picked up for a second season. I mean, I'm excited to see what they do with 1923 for season 2. But yeah, Yellowstone, Chrissy got me hooked onto it.
Is that the one with Harrison Ford, or is he in the other one?
No, Kevin. 1923 is Harrison Ford. Kevin Costner's in Yellowstone.
Right.
Yes. So Harrison Ford and I forget her name, plays his wife in there as well too. Shit. Oh my God, I hate getting old. Helen
Mirren.
Helen, yes, thank you.
Helen Mirren, she's great. She played
fucking awesome.
His wife in The Mosquito Coast.
Yes,
a movie back in the 80s, which I fucking love. One of my favorite Harrison Ford movies.
I think I think you might like it. I don't know your taste in shows and stuff, and this is really right, Country Boy, and this is all right up my fucking alley. And she got me hooked onto it, and she'll tell you, I am fucking obsessed with all three shows.
I've seen your posts.
I can't wait till the second part of season 5 comes out here with for Yellowstone. The conclusion of it. Now I know they're doing a spinoff with all right, which is involving most of the cast except Kevin Costner. So right. I'm excited to see like what they're doing with this spinoff with Matt McConaughey.
Right.
And how all that's going to. The guy who writes this, he's a phenomenal writer. Timothy
Oliphant.
It starts with an H. The guy who
Timothy
writes
Oliphant, isn't he an actor? Timothy, I don't know. Chat room will let you know. Chat room always knows.
You might like it. I don't know your taste.
I'll watch anything with Harrison Ford.
And I don't know. Are you a fan of the Old West cowboy? And,
depends. Depends.
Are you
depends on the story.
Stuff?
I can watch it.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. I mean, yeah, it's really fucking good. Cool. Again, love Yellowstone, and of the prequel, I actually liked 1883 more. I was hoping that that would get picked up a little bit for a second season, but. Cody, watch it. You'll have fun with it.
Cool.
If you're into that stuff. I don't know if you're into that stuff.
Ethan Self sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Ethan, and says, the big question, I apologize if you both have answered before, but which is better, Freddy's Dead or Jason Goes to Hell?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to save that for an episode.
Freddy's Dead is fucking terrible.
They're all both terrible.
They are both terrible. They are
Taylor Sheridan writes Yellowstone. Thank you,
Taylor
Ryan.
Sheridan. Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know. You know what, Ethan? I don't know, but because I'm more familiar with Freddy's Dead than I am Jason Goes to Hell because I've watched Freddy's Dead more recently. Jason Goes to Hell, I think the last time I watched it was with you when we did it a couple years back. They're both awful. Like they're both awful. I don't know. Like, do you want a shit pizza or do you want shit ice cream? Like, I mean, you know, they're both really, really bad. So I'm not sure. Could you pick one, Tony? It's tough to pick one between those two.
Which one I like better?
Which one is Freddy's Dead or
Jason Goes to Hell?
Oh, God.
I don't watch either one of them.
I know.
I don't even own either one of them.
They're both abysmal. Freddy is a loser.
Like
in
for Freddy,
the
last one that I own, the Freddy movies that I own obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and I own. I think I got Freddy versus Jason as part of a dual thing when I was buying digitally on iTunes. It came with like a dual package thing with one of the Nightmare movies, or maybe might have came with Friday the 13th. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I know I don't own Freddy's Dead and I don't own Jason Goes to Hell. I just if I say Jason Goes to Hell, I saw both movies in theaters. I was going to say it's sentiment because I saw that with my buddies growing up, but I saw Freddy's Dead with my brother and another buddy of mine. We snuck into that one.
You know what I'm going to say? And this is, keep in mind, I haven't seen Jason Goes to Hell since we watched it however many years ago. I'm going to say that maybe Jason Goes to Hell is quote unquote better, because the Freddy movie is just like it does. I hate Jason Goes to Hell. The whole he's dead and people are eating him
jumping
to
from body to body.
It's just
and
so
stuff.
dumb.
Yeah.
But the kills are, there's kills. It's just like the scenario and the situations are just absolutely awful. It's
I will
absolutely
say this,
terrible.
Jason Goes to Hell has cooler shots than.
Well, that's what
Freddy.
I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But Freddy is like, what happened? Like, what is this? Like the makeup and the way he's doing cartwheels. It's like it is an insult. It is an absolute mockery and travesty and insult to the character. I said on the Slaughtered Lamb show, I said, Freddy's a fucking loser in Elm Street 6. And I mean that. He's a loser. I don't mean Robert Englund. Like, the character is, he's a loser.
It's a joke.
He's a joke. He's an absolute joke.
When you look at the original and then you look at that, you're like, what?
Yeah, it's an absolute shame. It's terrible. You know, no screaming while the bus is in motion.
I'll get you, my pretty.
Oh, that and the whole like, he's playing the video game. Boing, 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 boing. What is this? Now, I mean, I understand early 90s, the 3D gimmick, trying to get it back in there. Video games, Super Nintendo was really hot. MTV was still kind of, really big. I get it. Like, I understand, but it's like, what are we doing? Like, and the makeup, and I understand Robert Englund didn't want to be in the makeup for any longer than he needed to be because he fucking hated it, by part 6. I get all that, but the makeup looks dreadful. Looks like a bubble gum. Looks like it got stung by a bee. Great graphics. And it's just like, what is this fucking movie? It is just, he is a joke. He is an absolute joke. And then the movie just ends. His head blows up, these awful 3D effects, and then his daughter, where's she been for all this time? Suddenly
the last decade, right?
Yeah, she's leaning against the wall, and she's just like, Freddy's dead. Ding, ding, ding. And then the music kicks in and the credits roll. Like, what? Like seconds after his fucking head blows up. It's just dreadful. The best thing about Freddy's Dead is the end credits, because it's a montage of all the other better films that came before it. Yeah, that's really it. You know what I mean? And, oh, God, that movie is crap.
Yep. Crap. Both of them are crap.
Both of them are crap. They're both crap. They're both smelly, raunchy crap.
When it comes to Friday the 13th, the last tolerable Friday film that I will watch that I can get through and somewhat enjoy. I'm not saying I'm like, oh, this is a great movie, but I can enjoy it enough, would be New Blood with the telekinesis, or is it? Yeah, telekinesis.
Telekinesis,
chick. Yeah. It's not great. I mean, it's obviously the introduction to Kane Hodder and his run,
right.
Of Jason, but that's probably the last in
it's the best of Kane Hodder's run. Now,
hands down, it's the best of Kane Hodder's movies. And it's the last one that I could throw on and be like, all right, it's all right. Like, I'm not loving it, but it's
yeah,
I'm here.
It's true.
I'm not dreading it.
Yeah. And I know Jason X gets some love because of the certain kills and things like that, but I don't know. When is Ghostface going to space?
Probably soon enough. Although, I
want to see Ghostface go to space.
She went with her daughter to see it. This little mom daughter bonding time, like girls' night out, and she loved it. Now, she's not a big horror fan, but she loved Scream 6, and she's like, I can't wait for you and Dave to talk about Scream 6, and I'm like, yeah, it's coming. I haven't seen it yet. I'm holding off for you.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm not. But are
we doing a live watch? Like, how are we doing this? Because I'm holding off for you.
Well, I mean, no. Well, you can go see it. You can go see it if you want. I haven't seen it yet, but
I didn't know if you wanted to do a first watch like we did.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean,
sure?
It was easier last time because the theaters were still closed, and not completely, but they released it faster because they needed to get it out so people could see it. And it was just easier a year ago to do a first watch of a major film like that on the channel. But I will say that I haven't seen it. I don't mind
waiting, dude. It's going to be a few weeks, I'm sure.
It's up to you. I've made no secret to say I haven't seen it, but because I'm not as emotionally attached to the franchise as a lot of people are, I know about what happens. I mean, I know people who've seen it. They've told me what happens. I know who the killers are. I know who the reveal is.
Don't tell me. I don't know any of that shit.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. But it's because I don't care. Like, there's some movies, and if you If you're this kind of person, like, yeah, there's some things it doesn't change it for me. If you're emotionally attached, if you love Scream and it's just, oh, this is so precious, well then yeah, you do not know what happened, because it will change your experience, fundamentally change your experience. But if you're somebody that's just like me, it's just like, Scream it, take it, leave it, no big deal. It doesn't affect me. I know some people are going to try to argue that. But if you know exactly what I mean, what I'm talking about, there's certain things will affect me because of the attachment I have to a property, like a Halloween film or, something like that. But Scream, it doesn't affect me in the ways that you think it might, or change the experience in the ways that you think it might. But I'm looking forward to seeing it. I do want to see it. I want to see it. So we will definitely talk about it on the channel for sure. Absolutely. And if you want to go see it, dude, go see it. Go see it. I don't mind.
I don't mind holding off.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Go fucking see it. Ethan Self sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Ethan, and says, thanks for answering. Your guys' episode on Freddy's Dead is my favorite. Always makes me laugh. I appreciate both of you. Thank you, Ethan. You guys are my favorite YouTubers and help cheer me up when I am anxious or down. Thank you. Well, thank you for saying that, man. Really appreciate that. Hey, man, we're just doing our thing here and talking movies and celebrating our favorite horror movies and trying to keep shows interesting, man. So thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Although, you know what?
What's that?
What we could do.
Here it comes.
Is it available
You
now?
got a bootleg version, do you? No, it's not PVOD yet. It's
no. That's not even the one I was thinking of.
What are you thinking of?
What we should do.
We should find a bootleg version and go to
tomorrow.
Do a live stream from the theater.
I'm probably gonna buy it just to buy it because this movie, just from what I'm hearing, is nuttier than
Oh,
nutty.
You mean Cocaine Bear?
Cocaine
That's
Bear.
what you're talking about.
We watch Cocaine Bear next week. That's what we do.
Cocaine Bear.
God damn, that movie looks fucking crazier.
Well, now earlier in the show tonight, you set up this epic.
Maybe 2 weeks from now. So maybe 2 weeks from now.
Maybe, yeah. We'll see how we feel next week.
We got to do that as a live watch, as a first time. Because I haven't seen that yet, and all I've heard is that movie is fucking bonkers.
I've heard it's I've actually hered mixed
fun
reviews.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't take it serious. Don't,
Right. Yeah. Should be interesting, to say the least. Let me see here. What else we got? Tokyo Convertible 87 says, Dave, ever see the Bob Clark directed Turk 182 from 1985? I have not. No, I have not. Entertainment Wizard said Ghostbusters Firehouse started filming. That's true. The sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife began filming today, I believe. I don't know if the title is Firehouse or if that's just the working title. Or maybe it's Ghostbusters Firehouse. Maybe it is. Afterlife, now it's Firehouse. Maybe it is. We'll see how that all shakes up. Let's see here. Scream. Wayne Turner says, I rank Scream 6 last in the franchise. Most of the writing is terrible, illogical, and plot holes galore. Well, Wayne, I take it you didn't like it. Wayne wasn't a big fan, folks. Jonathan Ball says, if you want to see Kevin Bacon get stabbed on film again, check out The Following. It was a very interesting show. The show? Was it a show? The Following? A movie? I don't know. If you see any questions, Tony, that interest you, feel free to snag them. Bobby Hall says, D&T, when Myers showed up at Laurie's house and Halloween Ends, do you think she knew something was going on between him and Corey, and Myers just wanted his mask back, or did she think he came to kill her? I think she thought he came to kill her.
I don't even remember. Bro,
Tony
I watched that movie like
even
once,
remember.
and yeah.
Well, no, you've watched it twice. You watched it once in the theater.
I wasn't really paying it. No, I didn't watch it in theater. I watched it on.
Oh, you watched it at home. You watched it home, and then you watched it
during the live stream, but I wasn't really paying attention.
Did we do a live stream, or did we just talk about it?
We did. No,
we did a live
watch of that. And that was the last time I was ever watching that piece of fucking shit movie. No.
Halloween Ends, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, look, I mean,
there's so much of that I don't even remember. Like, people could ask me questions about plot, and I haven't invested my time into it. I don't know.
I haven't watched it since we watched it.
And even at that, like, I wasn't paying attention. We were talking, so it's not like I'm paying attention to you, or to the movie.
No, it's okay. You're not paying
attention to you in the chat room. So.
Naturally, of course. I haven't watched Halloween Kills probably since we watched it. But I'm saying that as well. Kills I haven't watched since we watched it either, I don't think.
And unless there's for whatever reason, Dave, you freaking ask me to do it, I don't think I'll watch any of these 3 movies. Maybe never again. I don't know.
Never again.
Unless I want to show her, because she's never seen them. So it would be like showing her just for the sake of like, okay, well, let's do this and get it over with.
Right.
I have zero desire to watch any of those movies, except maybe the 2018 film. I could probably get into watching if I'm in a mood for it. But yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, certainly I can definitely say, even though I was lukewarm on the 18 film, certainly Kills and Ends have made the 18 film better. Even within the Sartay
film looks
moment.
18 looks like a fucking, like, it's like gold compared to fucking those 2 movies.
It's too bad they didn't just leave it at that.
Really? They really could have just left it at that, and that's it, Yeah,
you could have.
But Dave, you hear Michael Myers breathing at the end of the credits.
I know, but that doesn't mean you got to bring him back. That just
Dave, I want more Michael Myers.
That if they had never made another one, that would just communicate to me, is he? Isn't he? Is he? I don't know. And the whole idea is that you're not supposed to know. That's the idea. That's why it works. So you could still have the breathing and just leave it. Totally. But they didn't. They went on and they kept going. All right, just want to take this thing to another 10 minutes or so?
Because I didn't do any editing and I got to finish that. So
okay. I was just going to say, boy, if you've done editing, you've been really on fire tonight, multitasking.
I haven't done any, so.
All right, well,
that's good.
All right.
2 more minutes.
Yeah, Mike Johnson says, I'm conflicted about Scream 6, Dave and Tony. I thought it was pretty suspenseful, but some of the dialogue was cringeworthy and too many people lived that shouldn't have. Oh, hang on, stop. Ooh, don't get too spoilery.
I haven't seen it.
Don't get too spoilery.
We haven't seen it.
Well, I know about that, but I mean, some people in the chat room might not, although I guess everybody who's wanted to see it has seen it already. Well, it's Scream, man. It's whatever. I mean, how cringy can it, how thespian, how Shakespearean can it possibly be? My question is, where do you go from here? I don't know. Maybe,
do you just keep going? Let's just fucking keep making them, man. Let's just keep making them, man.
Yeah. Let's make another Halloween movie.
Oh, they will. They'll make another one. And everybody will show up. We'll be there.
Yes, we will. And then bitching about it after.
Yes, it's what we do. Brooks Scarlett says, new Halloween trilogy or new Scream trilogy? Do you think Scream trilogy could be better? Well, they haven't finished the Scream trilogy yet if they do a part 7. So I think the jury is still out on that one.
But based off of what I've seen in 2022 and from what I'm hearing, which hasn't been spoiled to me in regards to this new one, I'd say yeah. I say, but that's not it's not, it doesn't have a lot to beat. So it's not like, like you're talking like after 18, you get killed and you get ends. That's not hard competition.
No, it's not.
So
yeah, I guess I
have to see the new Scream movie, and then I'll get a better feel for like the direction it's going of what could possibly be better. You know what I mean? I think once I see it, that I can answer that question. But as of right now, I mean, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Sebastian says, Dave, when are you planning to see Scream 6? I don't know. I don't know. Probably not in the theater. So that should tell you right there. Maybe a bit.
There you go.
Maybe a bit. Sweet.
But talk about
Well,
it.
these it'll be a POVD like soon.
Yeah, it will.
Sweet Tea sends in $10. The tea is sweet tonight. Thank you very much, Sweet Tea. And says, for the channel, my friends, be safe too. Thank you very much, Sweet Tea. You as well. I hope everything is going well for you and are staying safe. Robert Fitoff says, Dave and Tony, let's say Star Wars came out in 1975 instead of 1977, and Jaws came out in 1977 instead of 1975. Does Jaws end up overtaking Star Wars at the box office during that time?
I think both movies do exactly the way they do, because again,
yeah. So the answer would be no.
You're talking the 70s. You're being introduced to this, the summer blockbuster and whatnot. Like, all this was new at that time for people in the 70s. Like, we're so accustomed to it because we get a fucking blockbuster movie every other month. But back then, no, I think both movies would have done exactly what they did and nothing would have changed.
I think you're probably right. And then in that respect, it would have been, so he's asking, like, Jaws came out, became the highest grossing movie of all time. Then Star Wars came out and overtook it. So if Star Wars came out first, would Jaws overtake Star Wars?
No,
probably
Jaws
not.
No,
probably
I think
not.
they would have just done exactly the way they did.
Yeah, but Jaws still would have been a gigantic blockbuster and made $260 million at the box office. Yep. Still would have been huge.
Yep.
Okay. Let's take the thing right to 2 hours, like 9 more minutes. That's good.
Sounds good.
That's good.
That's good. All right, let's see who else has got a question. What's going on here? We got Cody Snyder, says Frank. Oh, he's talking to Frank. Well, I would say I'd rather watch a toilet flush, but then I watched Ends, and that's pretty much what that was.
That's accurate.
That's right.
That is an accurate description of watching Halloween Ends, is watching a toilet flush.
There you go.
Fucking with the biggest load of diarrhea in it.
Starting to sound like fucking Macho Man. Yeah. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave and Tony, besides Halloween 2 score, did you guys like Manfredini's Friday 2 score? Ooh,
yes.
Yeah.
Thing I like about part 1 and part 2 score is they're very similar. Fridays, part 2's are one. There's an identity to it. Even just the sound design and the soundscape that Manfredini does throughout the whole movies that you start to lose as the franchise goes on.
You do. Yeah. No, the score is great with Friday the 13th. Basically 1 through 4, really. I think is solid, and certainly in that in those first few, the all that's, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great stuff. I like it a lot. Let's see here. What else we got? Let's see here.
No, the stream is not biased, Mike Johnson. We are just entitled to our opinion. If you like Halloween Ends, there's nothing wrong with that, my friend. I just think it's a big pile of dog shit.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You're welcome here. Listen, I don't like Elm Street or Halloween 5 or Resurrection. I think they're terrible. But if you love them, you're welcome here.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Or Rob Zombie's, that's it too. That's exactly it too, yeah. So. Dalton Barron says, Dave, did you ever watch the Shudder movie Watcher? It's got the same actress from It Follows. It's pretty good. Dalton, I did watch Watcher, and I liked it. I thought it ended, I had trouble, I don't think people are, it's not the same as Scream. I had trouble believing that the actress was alive at the end. Like, I mean, she was bleeding out all over the place. And then she's actually alive to be able to kill the guy. I was like, what? Did I miss something? Whatever. I just kind of had trouble believing she would be in any position to do that. But other than that, I love the movie. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I liked it. My kind of psychological horror. Watcher. Is it called Watcher or The Watcher? No, it's called Watcher. Not to be confused with the Netflix miniseries The Watcher, which was also actually pretty good.
I don't have Shudder, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, then you should
you go.
shut your
I got too many streaming services as it is.
So many. There's so many. It's more expensive than cable ever was now. You got Shudder and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Netflix and Peacock and Prime and HBO Max and Hulu and Chulu and Nulu and Rulu and Lulu and Julu. It's like, it's crazy. Super chat comes in from Zigo Arsgade 45, sends in $4.99 and says, Dave, ever going to bring your girl on the show? No, not going to happen.
Oh, come on. We got to bring them both on. We'll do 2 dudes and some bitches.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. I remember that. That's funny.
No, I don't even think Chrissy would want to do it either. She wouldn't.
No, private life stays private.
Exactly.
Let me see here. Vanderhoff, 66FU.
And by the way, that's not to be offensive. Chrissy would laugh at that, me saying 2 dudes and some bitches.
It was actually, it was, I believe, yeah. No. It was it's an inside joke from long ago.
Long ago.
Yeah. Vanderhoff, Dave Vanderhoff says, like Dave says, this is show business, not show up. It's all about money. It's making money. Clap, clap, clap. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, again, that doesn't mean, I always go to the extreme to make a point. Not always, but often I will go to the extreme to make a point. So often that people have, not really liked how I, go to the extreme sometimes. But it's not that obviously tender love and care isn't taken into consideration when telling a story, making sure that things fit canonically when it's part of a franchise. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, look at the Star Wars sequels and all that kind of stuff. But there are examples where tender love and care is taken into account and all that kind of, for sure. But at the end of the day, it's about making money. And if they don't make money, the studios and the networks and the streaming services will stop it like that. They don't care if stories are incomplete, arcs are unfinished. If you ain't watching, they ain't making. Done. It's just the way it is. I can't tell you how many shows I've gotten into only for it to be canceled and it's completely incomplete. Arcs are not complete. Ends on a cliffhanger. No idea what happens next. I'll never know. And Netflix is like, oh, you know what? Not enough people are watching. Okay, you're done. They don't care. Show business, baby. So if you want, if you want a show to survive, you got to watch. Of course, if you care about it, that is.
That wasn't towards you, by the way. That's what you're about to read. I just saw it.
Escape 45. Let's keep it PG, buddy. Let's keep it PG.
Too personal, man.
Come on. Let's keep it PG, man.
Not going there.
Keep it PG.
Not going there.
Let's see here. Tokyo Convertible 87 says, whoever just asked. Oh yeah. Well, it's just like, come on, let's.
You're getting too personal.
We're not your buddy. Okay, let's have some class. We're not your best friend. Let me see here. Wayne Turner says Scream 7 should make a certain character from 6 a solo Ghostface and Sam's secret brother in 7. There's lots of things you could do. Listen, I've always, and Tony and I agree, we've always wanted an epic cliffhanger where you don't even know who it is. There is no Scooby-Doo. You think there's going to be one. Ruh-roh. Here it comes. Mask comes off. Nope. No. What do you think of that, bitch? You ain't finding out. You ain't finding out who Ghostface is. Ooh. And it doesn't feel shoehorned in. It feels completely organic. And you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God. I can't wait to the next one. What do you think of that, motherfucker? What do you think of that, bitch? Oh yeah. You're sitting there going, I feel uncomfortable because it's not what I expected. That's right. It's the opposite of what you expected. There is no ruh-roh. No, there is no moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I feel about it. I love your reaction. Yeah.
No, it's just someone in the chat room just...
Oh, what's going on in the chat, man? What's going on in the chat? What's going on?
They take things that we say so literally. Do you really think that my girl would let me have sex with her wearing the Michael Myers mask?
Oh, come on,
Remember,
guys.
I made a comment like a while ago or some shit about, dude.
Yeah.
First of all, if I would even remotely suggest that, she'd fucking have me committed.
Yeah.
Like,
well, guys, too, like, you know, it's
there's context of taking it literally and taking it as a joke.
Yeah,
which is
and
what it's intended for.
Let me say this as well, okay? Let me say this as well, because it's important. Do not misunderstand the casual, candid nature of Tony and I's back and forth, the casualness of the show. We love you guys, we do. And this isn't for everybody. I'm talking specifically about certain people that may feel, that may try too hard or oversell it. We love you guys. We do. If you guys weren't here, we wouldn't be here either. And we appreciate your support each and every week. And we appreciate you hanging out with us and talking movies and having fun and all that kind of stuff. But let's keep the questions, you know, professional,
or
mature,
comments, professional,
right? Or comments, mature, you know, professional. We let's try to keep that. You know, I mean, obviously, there's been times where Tony and I have gone off on rants and things like that as well. But leave that to us. Leave that to us. Let's try to keep the chat room in terms of personal questions, things like that. Let's kind of keep that out of it for a little bit, okay? This is not, we're not hanging out in your living room with your buddies, all right? Even though it might feel like that,
and
we
even
still want
that,
things
dude,
to feel
like,
professional.
I don't sit there and have private conversations with Dave about that in my life, or my buddy Devin. Like, we don't, like, we're in our 40s now, man.
Yeah,
like, we're not teenage kids anymore.
I
Like,
know.
we don't like this. It would be so, if I were to have conversations like that to Dave or to my buddy Devin or my father, you know what I mean? They would be so disrespectful to Chrissy and talking about that, our life like that. Like
100%.
I wouldn't do
no,
that.
It's
shit.
like, it's just, keep it out of it. He follows up with 499, says, Dave, could you say this in the movie trailer voice? One man, one woman, one desire. No, I will not say that in the movie trailer voice. Not because of your question before, but because I don't do the movie trailer voice live for anybody. But I do have a video on my channel where I do it. Just type in Dave McRae movie trailer voice and you can see me do it. It's a video I posted a couple of years ago or whatever it was. And you can see me do it.
I'll do it. Ready?
Yes, let's do it. Let's hear it.
One man.
Yes.
One woman.
Yes.
One desire.
Yes. There you go. Yes.
And I'm not a voiceover guy.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Super chat from Edward Nito sends in $10. Says, Dave, do you guys, excuse me, Edward Nito says, do you think you guys would be the same after surviving the events of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I've always questioned if I could make it through the night. I definitely fight with everything I had for my wife and I. Well, I think that last part is just really it, right? I have no idea if I would survive it. I can certainly tell you I would do everything everything I possibly could to survive that. I would hate to be in that situation.
I like my odds if I were going up against the Sawyer family.
Right.
I do not like my odds going up against the Hewitt family.
Right.
So if we're doing a comparison, I'm not saying I would survive the Sawyer family. I'm saying I like my odds that I might make it out. Maybe, possibly, I might be able to outrun Bubba. But the Hewitt family, no, I think I'm pretty fucked from the get-go.
Right.
Yeah. What about you? Which, if you had to compare the two?
Oh well, I mean, the Hewitt family is fucking brutal. Yeah, I don't know how I'm getting out of that, but I'm going to try. I mean, what am I going to do? Lay down and take it? No, I'm going to try. I'm going to fucking try and get out of there. You know what I mean? I'd rather die trying than, not. John Dez sends in $9.99, says, hey, Dave, removing nostalgia, do you truly believe that Halloween 2 is a better sequel than H-18? Yes. Love Halloween 2, but I prefer a 2018 for the sequel to 78. Yeah, I do. I do, just because of how it connects to the original. I do. I think that having it pick up immediately on that night, and it's that one, it feels really connected. It feels like one story, but with two separate parts. And I think they did a terrific job. I don't like everything in Halloween 2, but in terms of a nice, 1-2 punch back to back sort of thing, I do. I think it works well as a complete story. I think it works better as a complete story than 1 and 8. Because remember, Halloween 2 from 1981 is not canon in the David Gordon Green series. So I think Halloween 18 So what makes a better complete story? Halloween 1 and 2 or Halloween 1 and 18? It's Halloween 1 and 2. Now, what's the better made movie? Right? What's the better made movie in terms of production value and all that? Well, it'd be Halloween 18, of course, because it's a modern picture, right? So for sure, it's better made in terms of the quality of the filmmaking and the, you know, the shots and things like that. But you look at Halloween 2, it's great shit in there, man. And it's a well-made early 80s slasher. And I think as far as the complete story, 1 and 2 or 1 and 18, I take 1 and 2 any day of the week and twice on Sunday. What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I agree. 1 and 2, no hesitation.
Yeah. Zigo says $4.99. Dave and Tony, 1 movie, 1 album, and 1 food for the rest of your life. What are you picking? Movie.
Can the food be a meal, like as a whole? Like,
yeah, sure. Why not? I say yes. Let's do it.
So if meal, that's easy for me. I'd go with steak and jasmine rice. Yes, I was gonna say throw a vegetable in there, but I'd probably get tired of the vegetable, but I don't get tired of steak and jasmine rice. That's my shit. I love that.
So
okay, now on to one album and fucking. I'll let you do the food because this is gonna take me a minute on the movie and album.
I don't really know. Maybe just a really good pizza or something. Or
see, I was gonna say that, but like I would get tired of pizza. I won't get tired of steak and rice.
That's true. That's true. And it wouldn't. And I'd be fucking fat and huge by the end of it. I'm gonna say a nice piece of like chicken with some salad or rice with some vegetables, or steak as well. Yeah. Or even just a nice salmon. Ooh, really nice salmon with some rice and vegetables.
I'd love to. You know, I'm allergic to seafood.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Highly. Like it can kill me.
Ooh,
yeah.
Shit. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. No. I meant
don't go visit Dave.
No. I meant it's good to know so we don't run into anything, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave's plotting Tony's demise.
Well, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it. I kind of thought about it.
Damn, 1 movie and 1 album. This is hard.
I'm gonna 1 movie. 1 movie. 1 album. I mean, for me, album, I'm going to pick.
Oh, I got the movie, which I don't think no one would see this coming, but well, never mind.
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of album. Like what album? Because I'm such a music buff, you know, being a DJ and all that, and collecting vinyl records and.
Yeah, you'll get this better than I'm going to be.
It's not even get it. It's like, what could I sacrifice?
Right.
You know what I mean?
See, and I feel that way about movies. I'm like, they're all my children. I just don't know what to pick. You know what? For the sake of this question, I'll say The Goonies. And album, I mean, I don't have a lot of, I don't know, something by AC/DC probably, or Queen. You know, Back in Black. There you go. I'll take the Back in Black album from 1980.
Movie, I'm going to go with Walk the Line. I love that movie. It's a movie I just never get tired of watching. It's a well-made movie, and
it's a good movie.
It's just one that I can never get tired of watching. I can't think of an album.
Something by Motley Crue.
I was saying that. I'm torn between Motley Crue and Nirvana. It's because like it's so tough between those two. But I'd probably say Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood album, because Same Old Situation's my favorite song by them. Plus it's just a great album. I'd say Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood album, and movie would be Walk the Line.
Okay.
And, you know, because I was thinking of a movie that like I wouldn't get tired of, and you know, it's fun to watch. You know what I mean? Like it's got good drama in it. Like, because I would get tired of watching the same horror movie over and over and over again.
It's
funny you said the Goonies, because I watched that on Saturday.
It's great. It's fucking great. Yeah. And for the last super chat, nobody. I would pick nobody. All right, what about you, Tony? Would also be nobody, I would imagine. Yes.
Wait, what?
Nobody. Rosie O'Donnell, Roseanne Barr, Melissa McCarthy. Nobody.
None of the above.
None of the above.
Zero.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here on episode 185. Thank you to our great moderators, Frank Reicher, Tap the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Faber, Cody Snyder, for doing what you guys do. We really appreciate it. You are amazing. Thank you to the Super Chat questions that came in today. Really appreciate those as well. Well, most of them, of course. And of course, we will be back next Monday night at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, one super chat came in. Oh, it's Movie Chat More. Right hard into the paint. Hey guys, would you prefer a direct sequel to Halloween 2 or a direct sequel to Friday the 13th 2? Also, Kurt or Austin? What? Kurt or Austin? I don't know who you're talking about when you say Kurt or Austin.
Now, are you talking like Kurt Angle and Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Maybe I assume that's what he's talking about. I would pick a direct sequel to Friday 2 and bring back what's her face? Amy Steele.
Down.
Halloween 2's been done enough. Fuck that. Get that out of there.
Yeah.
So do the direct sequel and.
Well, because we've never seen a direct sequel to Friday 2.
That's what I mean.
Bringing back Amy Steele, so it would be
That's
something
what I mean.
new.
That's it.
I want to know what he means by Kurt or Austin.
I'm sure it's Kurt Angle or Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's what I would imagine. So I'll pick Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, Stone Cold
That's
Steve
what I'll pick.
Austin. If that's what you mean, if it's not, I feel bad, dude.
I'm sure that's what he means. All right, folks. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back next Monday night. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. No, I'm not answering it. I'm not answering it.
It's mine.
No.
Riverside Park. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. We'll be back next week, folks. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. Have a great rest of your Monday night. All right, folks. Oh, Tony, any last things you want to say?
Kurt as Elvis, Austin Butler or Kurt, that's what he meant.
Oh,
Kurt.
Elvis. Oh, I would pick Austin Butler.
Austin Butler, yeah.
That's a good one. All right. Any last things you want to say?
Let's go.
Okay, let's go. Cheers.